up. It's been a while. It may even have been, well, over 6 months, maybe even a year. I've been through plenty of mini crashes. I think self-inflicted really, the usual, my usual dosing too much. My phosphates were getting a bit out of control actually. I've got this Chato, that's a 34-gallon Chato tank, and then you've got this 55-gallon display tank, I suppose. Yeah. And the Chato wasn't really growing. My problem has been, and this is partly why I haven't bothered to video, is because it's the same old story of the tin of heavy metals polluting the tank, doing lots of ICP tests and not being able to get rid of the tin, not being able to find the source. And I didn't want to bore people going on and on about the same blinking thing over and over again. So I still haven't got rid of it. In January, just before COVID, I was ICPing and I had used Metasorb. I think that caused the first mini crash. It strips all the metals out. The problem is it strips some metals out faster than others. Saying that, it did get rid of the tin, there's no doubt. And you've got, basically my Stylophora is the one that suffers. It suffered, yeah. It was the one that started stripping. So I've got sort of various patches where algae now grows and I need to cut it out really. Like you can see the side here, can you see this bit? Well, basically I had to remove that whole lot because it had died. So anyway, yeah, so the initial thing was Metasorb, which got rid of the tin, but unfortunately the tin started testing again ICP about 2 months ago, and there is still tin there. It's quite low. I think it's 5 parts per billion. Now when it was bad, it was something like 50 parts per billion. So, but I have a feeling it is creeping back. So my issue is that if I want stuff to grow, I have to dose, but it's difficult to dose without dosing tin, small amounts of tin. And what happens is these zoas here, I mean, I've lost a lot of zoas, some of my favourite zoas have just gone. Like these guys, see the way these scrunch up? Actually, that may be too much flow, but they don't exactly look great. So that's the usual story, and that's why I didn't want to keep videoing and saying the same thing over and over again about the metals. Livestock's doing well. The only thing that doesn't like possibly the tin is the trochus snails. So I got a whole load of stuff, cleanup crew, and I quarantined them in that tank for about 6 weeks, and then I moved them over to the display tank. And the trochus snails, they didn't like it. They started falling off, so I moved them back into the quarantine tank, so they're in there now. They seem to recover and they're happy. The Astrea snails are hardy as nails. They are not bothered. They are not bothered at all. And I mean, I've only got 2, but they're rocking, and I'm glad they're there. And all the fish, I've had no fish die. They're all doing well. I think I've had no fish die. So they're all, they're all pretty hardy fish anyway. They're all pretty easy to keep anyway. So, I mean, this guy's grown. Unfortunately, this is a Hystrix punapi, and in fact it likes low light. You've got a frag which unfortunately has merged, 3 frags has merged into 1 frag, and that's right at the bottom. So you can see it doesn't need much light. I think it prefers it down there. But what happened with this guy is, see where there's algae again, whenever you get corals and maybe, well, this one got stung by these fuzzy mushrooms, and that made them die, and then they got algae. So you need to cut that out straight away, especially with this stuff, because it grows quite quickly. And if you don't cut it out straight away, then you've just got algae in the heart of the colony, and then it just looks naff, doesn't it? So anyway, so I have got algae sort of growing amidst, and then if the algae grows too much and you don't remove it, it actually bleaches where the algae is covering it. So, but anyway, hey ho. I mean, my tank's always going to have algae, and I feed like crazy. I'm not I'm not a low nutrient person. I just can't help myself. I can't help feeding. So, but I mean, what I do think, I mean, apart from the crashes, which another mini crash, a few mini crashes, two in fact, were caused. My phosphates were getting a bit high. I think they were about, don't know, I think they got up to about 30 or 40 parts per billion, which I can't even work out what that is. It may be 0.1, 0.2. And so I thought, right, so I started using lanthanum, and I had some right fun and games with lanthanum. One of them was, I don't know whether anybody's had this, but when you dose very small amounts of lanthanum initially, and I don't know whether this is because I had phosphates bound to the rocks or what, but I dosed, say, 0.1 mil of, it was quantum phosphate removal, so it was a minute amount, and then I tested a few hours later, and the ppm, parts per billion rather, had shot up from 60 to 160. Now that made my Stylophora strip as well, and I thought, what the hell is going on? Is this actual phosphate that I'm putting in, or bloody lanthanum? Anyway, if I'd persevered, then I would have noticed that, and this happened a few times. I tried it and I thought, why is my phosphate going through the roof? So I don't know whether, I couldn't see, it's happened to nobody else. The quantum people didn't understand it, but I definitely, was able to replicate it. But what I did do was a further time, I think the third time, I persevered, and the phosphate came down after a couple of days, and then obviously came down and down and down, and then of course, me being daft, I was monitoring the phosphates, and everything was going well. I got it down to about 30 or 20 parts per billion. I thought, okay, so I'll put it on a sort of maintenance dose just to stabilize the phosphates, and kept an eye on it for a week or two, and then I thought, oh well, don't have to keep an eye on it so much, and then of course it went to zero, didn't it? And then the Stylophora stripped again. I was able to catch it, I just dosed C-Chem phosphate. So what I maybe recommend is, if you are thinking about the lanthanum road, and it is very effective, I think it's absolutely brilliant. I had no problems with fish breathing as far as I was aware. Some people say that the precipitate, the lanthanum phosphate, can affect the gills of the fish, which may be true, but for my fish they seem to be okay. Anyway, so so where am I at now? I'm going to turn that wave machine off because it affects the quality of the video, so I'll turn that down. So let's have a few close-ups. Where am I at now? What am I doing now? So I've had a couple of ICP tests, and the tin is at about 4 or 5 parts per billion. As I say, it's just at the edge of where it's allowed, but it's still affecting I'm pretty sure that's what is affecting these zoas, the looks of these zoas. Now that just looks like that only because when I'm fragging, I don't know where to put the stuff because it's so full. So I end up piling stuff on top of other stuff. And anyway, this is a digitata which actually needs high light, and it was in low light, so I've dragged it up there. That should recover. It's not RTN. It's just been shaded heavily. I've actually got an Acropora which I've had ever since I had Acropora, which may be, I don't know, a couple of years ago now, and then I had a crash which wiped all my Acropora out, but I managed to frag a tiny bit of this. Fortunately, you can't really see it, but it's nice, but it hasn't really grown until recently. And the reason for that is what I've managed to do is get the Chaeto to grow, thank goodness. The Chaeto is finally growing, which is obviously controlling the phosphates. The thing about another really weird thing actually, you see, I mean, have a look at the size of that for that Aiptasia. Huge thing, isn't it? Absolutely huge. Now what's really weird, I mean, it's rammed full of Aiptasia, this refugium, but the display tank has one, I wish this thing would bloody focus. It has one Aiptasia which is sort of there, and that is it. It literally has one Aiptasia, and that Aiptasia has been there for about a year, and there's no other Aiptasia, which to me makes me think something is eating baby Aiptasia in this tank. I don't know whether the cleaner shrimp do it. I've got a couple of cleaner shrimp, and something eats baby Aiptasia. I don't know whether it's fish, I don't know whether anybody else has come across that, but it's quite interesting, I thought, because something is eating it. There's no way that the Aiptasia is not multiplying in here. So yeah, that was quite interesting. Anyway, going back to the refugium. So anybody that's got a massive refugium, and that can be I would imagine it might be an algae scrubber or a Chaeto tank. Your problem is going to be getting the stuff to grow, because it'll grow initially, and then what happens is something runs out. Now it could be iron. With Chaeto, I think it's iron, manganese. What else? Boron. Can't even remember what else is there. Boron. Anyway, so I started dosing something called Chaeto Grow or something. And the problem with when I used to do that was I thought I was overdosing on iron. I finally bought an iron kit, the Red Sea iron kit. Boy, that's expensive, because you can't buy it on its own. You have to buy it as a triple kit, which is iron, iodine, and potassium. I think it's for the trace elements or colours or something. And yeah, so 60 quid for that, just for really all I wanted was the iron kit. I'd already tried another iron kit, which was garbage. Couldn't tell the colour difference, couldn't tell it. But with the with the Red Sea, yeah, it's good. I do like Red Sea. I mean, if you haven't got Red Sea nitrate test and a HANA phosphate checker, I just think you should have one. I don't know how people do it without, really. I mean, they're more skillful than me. I'm not. I just, it's difficult with a big Chaeto thing like this, because initially, you take a load of Chaeto out, then you're trying to adjust the nitrates because not much is growing, because there's not as much Chaeto in there, and exponentially after about 2 or 3 days, suddenly, your nitrates are gone because the Chaeto is going crazy, phosphates are going. Then you need to up the dose on the. So I don't know. I'm not sure how big the advantages are of having a huge sort of Chaeto factory or an algae scrubber, because unless you're dosing, the trace elements that the algae or the Chaeto requires, then you can be stuffed, it can stop growing, or it can strip stuff out that affects your corals. So anyway, but I do like it. I do like it. What I do like about a dirty tank is, these people that go, I mean, there's a lot of you who go, oh no, my DKH went up by 0.3. Oh my goodness. I just laugh at that, because when you've got a dirty tank, it doesn't matter. You can just get away. You could get away with a 2 DKH drop or rise in a day. It wouldn't matter. Or at least that's what I found. I mean, maybe I shouldn't laugh, because I've got a dirty tank, haven't I, with lots of algae. But yeah, I just find if you're on the edge, if you're pushing your tank to the edge with a clean tank, I think the corals are on the edge. I mean, I can't talk because, of course, I've crashed my tank many times. But yeah, I just think you can get lots of fluctuations with a nice big refugium and a dirty tank. Don't know whether it's true, but that's what I feel. So basically I've been dosing Seachem Plus, which I've dosed for years, and Salifert Trace Hard, as in hard SPS, and they both got tin in. So the problem is I can't dose much of it because my zoas look terrible the more I dose of that stuff. I was worried about iron, overdosing on iron, because I thought I'd overdosed, a couple of years ago. I thought I was overdosing on iron. But anyway, finally I've got this Red Sea iron kit, and I would love Red Sea to make that separately, because 60 quid for that lot is just slightly painful. And what I've done is I used to dose like 2 or 3 mils a day of the Salifert and the Seachem Plus, and you could just tell that the zoas didn't like it. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm dosing 1 mil of Chaeto Grow and 0.25 of Reef Plus and Salifert Trace, and that seems to be an okay balance. And I don't know what I'm going to do about the tin. I'm toying with a tank with an upgrade actually, but my problem with that is floorboards, and will they take the weight? So you can see my Spungodas doing nicely, really nice. Yep, and my mushrooms have finally started multiplying. I mean, for the last couple of years, they've never split really, and then suddenly I'm dosing the Chaeto, and I've decreased the Reef Plus. And what I've also done is, as well, because of the ICP test, I've always been low on vanadium. In fact, I don't know whether anybody has this problem, but my ICP tests are always 0 for vanadium, chromium, cobalt, and what else? Copper. I mean, you'll laugh, I'm dosing copper as well. Only very low, but I am dosing it. So I'm dosing. So I've started to heavily dose those, getting ICP tests every month, and suddenly the plating Montipora is getting nice white sort of edges, so that's getting growth there. And yeah, and the mushrooms started splitting since I upped the dose. I was always very cautious with the vanadium and chromium and that lot, but like I say, I'm getting regular ICP tests, so for now I can. Oh, and I've been slamming in the iron like you wouldn't believe. So although Chaeto has iron in it, I'm having to supplement that iron as well, huge amounts of iron. And yeah, it all seems to. I mean, the Chaeto's going nuts. I emptied this, not emptied it. I half emptied it. I think either 2 or 3 days ago, and it's already rammed. It's crazy. So my nitrates, what I try to do, I try to run them at about 0.75. My phosphates, I don't take them. I don't take them down lower than about 12 parts per billion, which I think is 0.03 parts per million, because I've found that any lower than that, my Stylophora starts stripping. So certainly it starts stripping when you get to the 0.018, which I used to think was like the dream phosphate levels. Yeah, so yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the tank, thank goodness. I mean, I've not bought any corals because the thought of introducing pests into my tank would just, I think, I was close to packing it in with the metals, with the tin. It doesn't bother me so much now, but it does. Yeah, it did drive me crazy, but I'm getting there. And okay, so I've not got rid of them, but hey ho, it's nice enough to look at, and I enjoy looking at it. So let's see if I can. Let's try and let's do a top-down view, see what's going on, and you can get a nice view. Let's have a look. Yeah, so the Spongades, they're growing nicely. We've got the. You can't really get that, can I? That bloody. Hold on a sec. Get that off. So the stylos sort of hit the surface really, and as somebody said, that they do start bleaching out when they hit the surface because they're getting such a high par. This digitator's looking rather nice. That's really nice. That's starting to get some good growth on it actually. It's all to do with the dosing, but the problem is I wasn't able to dose because I was dosing tin as well, and yeah, so it's still a tricky situation really, but try to think what else happened. So I've got a nice tuxedo. The tuxedos are awesome. I did a video on what I thought was a tuxedo, and in fact it was a pincushion, saying how it was good. I think I called it algae deliverance. I got a load of people saying, oh, it's not a tuxedo, it's a pincushion. Anyway, so I've got myself a tuxedo, and he's cool. This guy, he really cleans the rocks nice and white. I mean, I've got algae on the rocks, as you can see. There is algae. It's like a thin sort of layer, but I think I'll always have that. That's just the way it is, and I actually prefer it because it's feeding my fish and my snails. So I do like people's clean rock though. There's no doubt about it. I love it, but I don't think I'll ever get that. Let's see anything else. Let's have a look at that Acroporus. You can see that Acroporus is doing okay. I'm quite chuffed that it's even alive. I mean, I should have moved it to somewhere else, but it's like on a frag rack, and the frag rack's just gone. It's basically just been overgrown. The frag rack, that's quite cool. The way the digitator's sort of grown through the spongodes. And yeah, I mean, I'd love to get more corals, but I'm just not prepared to. I'd like to quarantine them, and the problem is the quarantine tank wouldn't take Acroporas. They'd just die because it's just the quarantine tank's just not got the right levels. So yeah, the fish. I love that the fish are great. I might get some more fish actually. I love the way with the big sort of colonies that you have. I recommend you let your corals grow out, because the fish, this is how they probably act in the wild, hiding in the corals, protected. And the tang is still good. Is he going to come out and play? I've got the. Yeah, interesting. I've got the what they're blinking called now. Jeez, it's on the tip of my tongue. Harlequin shrimp. I've got two actually, and I've had them for about 6 or 7 months. And yeah, they definitely decimate your starfish population. But I've got a fair population in the refugium, so in case you wanted to know, they can survive, or they seem to be able to survive, on one Astorina starfish a day each. And they seem to be all right on that. You can tell they're a bit hungry. It would be lovely to give them more, but occasionally I give them a couple. But they've survived on that for about the last three months, maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months. Within 2 months, they'd actually absolutely cleared this tank though of starfish. They are amazing the way they get rid of them. You think at first, no chance, and then suddenly you've got no starfish. So I'm happy that I've got enough in the refugium for now. So there's my tuxedo. It is gorgeous, a tuxedo, really gorgeous. I do love them. Quite small when I first bought them as well, and you think, I wonder how long they take to grow, and within 6 months they're like tripled in size. So another thing as well, my clownfish, they've been breeding, which I didn't realise. But I actually think they've been breeding for a couple of years and I didn't know. And then suddenly one day, I thought, I'll take a look at the back. You can't actually see because it's too dark, but just at the back is where the male is. You never really see the male. And anyway, there you go. There were some babies, stuck to the wall. And obviously I've seen many broods now, but the problem is they just get eaten. They just, never ever seen one free swimming. So bit of a shame. This guy's as cocky as hell. This guy, he's a little blighter, but they all get on okay. Occasionally I've got an angelfish in here. There's my algae blenny. He's great. By the way, if you've got an algae blenny, because mine eats nori. I don't know whether anybody else's does, but if you're a beginner and you buy an algae blenny, make sure you've got some nori. There's the don't let it starve, because you think you've got a tank full of algae. When you're a beginner and you've got a new tank and you've got a tank full of algae, and you bung the algae blenny and you wonder why it dies, probably because it can't eat that type of algae, especially when it's the long hair. It's already established. I don't know. That's what I found anyway. I better turn this on because my Kalkwasser. So I've got calc going in. I think I've got how much calc have I got? About 2 litres going in a day, and then I've got the carbonate going in as well. I've got about 200 mils of that going in a day. Then I dose not much magnesium. I just dose that in one go now. I used to dose it, over 24 periods, but I just dose it once a day. Calcium, I don't think I'm dosing that much calcium either. What am I dosing? Maybe only about 30 mil a day, something like that. Yeah, I always find it... anyway. I find it odd that people say, I'm dosing the 100 mil of the carbonate and 100 mil of the calcium, but that's just never been... Not been the same for me. Strontium... I'm dosing... Difficult to say. I mean, I know what I'm dosing, but it's not... If it was 100 milligram... Well, it's 16 milligram per litre, so I'm dosing about 150 mil of that. So times that by 5, divided by 5, about 20 or 30 mil of strontium a day of 100 milligram per mil. What else? Any other stuff I'm dosing? Obviously nitrates I dose huge amounts of nitrates. I dose the potassium nitrate. Thank goodness for that. Yeah, I dose the potassium nitrate. I dose, when the Chato's really going, I'm dosing 4 parts per million a day of the nitrates. I tend not to have to dose the phosphates. So that's just the only time I've had to do that really was when I overdid it on the lanthanum. So I think the lanthanum is awesome though. I mean, it's got me out of a sticky situation, and now that the refugium is kicking in, then it's sort of the phosphate's stabilized by the chaeto removal. So what else? I'd love to get a little bit of me. I'd love to get a T5, just one across here, but it won't happen. It won't happen. It's just I can't be bothered. But a bit of me would love to, but how do you hang it? I'd have to hang it, and I can't be doing with that. DIY skills are zero. So, but the Tang's lovely. He's the boss. Yeah, he's great. Yep. Yeah, that's about it. I think we better leave it at that. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. And yeah, cheers.